looking round for a butt buffet?
I love food. I love eating food. Whether it's hot or it's cold, I'm in the mood. Got stuff in my ass, that's true. It's not grass, it's fruit. I got a butt buffet.
Hello and welcome back to Chubbby Cheese. I'm Mr. Chubbby Cheese. I'm Craig.
And I am Bailey.
And today we're going to be talking about Star Wars.
Dun dun dun!
That means Darth Vader.
And Leia.
R2-D2.
Luke.
Jar Jar Spinks.
Huh, that doesn't seem right.
Oh, Binks, that's right.
Oh, darn, he's a stinker.
Oh, you know who showed up late to work today at Chubbby Cheese?
Who?
Our main chef.
How is the chef going to be late?
Paschetti, pork and beans, Pacini.
Oh, my goodness.
He claims, no, I'm not in the mafia. Hey, it's just me. I'm making a pizza.
He's got to be in the mafia, though, because he clearly has something else going on. He's always running off on important business, showing up late to work. Like, he's our chef. We've got to feed people.
And, you know, he hangs out with our other guy that works here at Chubbby Cheese, Louis Tomatoes Marinara.
Now, come on. That name just doesn't even sound real.
I know. And they're always covered in something red. And he's like, hey, that's just Louis Marinara. Hey, calm down. Come on.
You know who else is a little bit suspicious?
Who?
Diabetes Debbie over behind the dessert tray.
When is she not behind the dessert tray?
Oh my gosh, not tray, but you know what I mean. The dessert, what are those things called?
The dessert bar?
Yeah, dessert bar. She's always back there behind the dessert bar.
Gosh.
Something's up with her,
How
too.
does she fit back behind the dessert bar?
I know. She always gets stuck, too.
I know. And then we got to call our janitor in here, Tubby Dumper.
Ugh.
His parents hated him.
I know.
I've
But
seen
what
his
would we
driver's
do
license.
without him?
His driver's license actually says Tubby Dumper on there.
I mean, it's not short for anything? Like Tobias or...
Huh, I wonder if it is. I don't know.
Questions to ponder.
But hey, you know what? Who is our main sponsor for today's episode?
You know, it's gotta be Dumpco.
Those good people over at Dumpco always coming up with wonderful brand new products. And you know what? I've got a product I think that you're going to like.
Let's hear it.
When you wake up in the morning, how do you feel?
Oh, my God. I just want to go back to bed.
Do you just wake up and you feel like I would rather get hit by a bus or just lay back down and actually die?
Every single day.
Well, then I've got a product for you and everyone that feels just like you. Caffeinated toothpaste.
Oh, do tell.
It's got enough caffeine to kill a wolf.
Oh,
So imagine what it can do for you.
I mean, that's going to get me up and going in no time, right?
Have you ever seen the movie Scarface?
Yeah.
Do you remember when he slams his face into the pile of cocaine?
The best.
It's like that,
But with toothpaste.
but with toothpaste.
Oh, I love it.
And if it can kill a wolf, it'll make your day even better.
Thanks, Dumpco.
Caffeinated toothpaste. You can find that at great places like Chubbby Cheese. We sell that next to the little kids counter.
Yeah, over by the prizes.
All right. Thank you, Dumpco. So we're going to be talking about some Star Wars what-ifs. We're not just talking about the regular timeline and going through the movies. We're talking like major points in the story that if something different happened, where would we be?
And I feel like this is a really fun topic because Star Wars, like the whole plot is like everything has to fall into place for X to be able to happen, you know?
Yep.
And it's like that one little change could mean a whole new world, literally. So I just think it's going to be a lot of fun tonight.
I think so too. So I want to start in the prequel era.
Okay.
Episode 1. Let's go to the one a lot of people talk about it. If Qui-Gon Jinn lives, how's that going to change Anakin's life?
I think, honestly, if Qui-Gon lived, I don't think any of this crap would have happened.
He's the father figure Anakin needed.
Because, you know, with Kenobi, like, Kenobi does his best. I'm not going to hate on him too much, but at the same time, it's like Anakin saw him as a brother. And anytime you see somebody as a brother, you're not...
Going to listen to him and respect him like a parental figure.
Yeah, it's just different. And so I don't think that he took his lessons to heart.
And another big thing about Obi-Wan training Anakin, he does it because Qui-Gon died. It was his master's last wish.
It wasn't his choice.
Obi-Wan is, honestly, exactly like what the rest of the Jedi Council is.
Whereas Qui-Gon had a belief and didn't care what the council said.
Yeah, he was a rebel, and he kind of tried to teach Obi-Wan that, but Obi-Wan was still keeping his eyes more so on the Jedi Council, because he told his masters, like, if you would just listen and do what they do, you could be on the council. And Qui-Gon was trying to tell Obi-Wan, it's more important than that.
Yeah.
Like, what we're doing and what the Force is, what it's trying to teach us and lead us. The Force is trying to lead us, and we should be receptive of that. That's why he takes time to, like, focus in on the living Force around him. And Obi-Wan was more so trying to be more like that Jedi Council, and is why he failed when it came to training Anakin. Not that he couldn't be a good Jedi teacher, but specifically with Anakin, definitely needed a Qui-Gon.
Anakin needed somebody more experienced, needed somebody with wisdom. And Obi-Wan just didn't have that at that point in time.
Yeah.
Now, had like old man Obi-Wan, like it had been his teacher, it might be a little bit of a different story, because at that point he's got the experience and the wisdom. But being a younger Jedi, not having that experience, I think it really affected the training that Anakin had. And going back to what you said, and I think in any kind of society, any sort of political system, there are different people that are meant for different roles. And whenever you're a Jedi, if you think about it, like, yes, the Jedi on the council, they're politicians, essentially. They're helping make the rules, enforce the rules, working the Republic. But then you have people who are in the field, and they're not concerned about the politics. They're concerned about reality and what's right and what needs to be done. And like you said, what the Force is guiding them to do. And I personally just think Obi-Wan was meant more for the politics and less of being a Jedi warrior, if you will.
So, as you were talking about that, it got me thinking, like, how Obi-Wan wouldn't be he shouldn't have been picked. If Qui-Gon lives, he definitely wouldn't be training Anakin. But what made me think about this is when Qui-Gon leaves Anakin in the Jedi Council, what if Qui-Gon, assuming we're going down this path that he lives, what if he had spoke to Dooku, his master, and who trained him, and was like, hey, would you train Anakin as your Padawan? Because I believe, and we'll get to that, is Dooku left the Jedi Order because of how the Jedi Order acts.
Right.
And also because of how, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan come to the council and say, there's a Sith Lord. And they basically say, prove it.
Yeah.
And without sending anyone else, they just say, go back and bring him to us. Oh, that'll be easy. Yeah, we'll just pick up the Sith Lord and bring him back. It kind of shows their arrogance a bit. And I love the Jedi.
Yeah.
So, if Qui-Gon Jinn does live, he gets to train Anakin. But I thought about that. I was like, what if Dooku had trained Anakin?
Well, and that could even be interesting, thinking of it, about Dooku training Anakin outside of the Jedi Order, kind of like as a rogue Jedi more so.
Well, that could still lead to bad things, because Dooku fell to the Sith,
But maybe not if Qui-Gon died.
That's
Qui-Gon
true.
living fixes so much.
Yeah, it's, to me, Qui-Gon living, and it doesn't necessarily mean Obi-Wan has to die.
Yeah.
I mean, Qui-Gon could have gotten injured, and you know how, like, in that one part where Obi-Wan was hanging onto the thing, falling down there, Qui-Gon could have gotten knocked down into there. Obi-Wan comes rushing through, Qui-Gon jumps back up, and they could have, jumping to the next point with this, Darth Maul lives. What if they, instead of actually killing him, subdue him, and they're actually able to bring him back? They're captured, and then he could essentially make his escape with Palpatine's help somehow.
Right.
Because, like, as we know in the regular canon, they brought him back in the movies, and they brought him back in Clone Wars. So if you bring Darth Maul back to the Jedi Council, or get close and he escapes somehow with the help of Palpatine, now you've saved him for Episode 2, Episode 3, whatever you want to do with him. Make him survive throughout the Clone Wars so we have something to do, which they brought him back in Clone Wars anyways. Qui-Gon raising Anakin would be the exact thing he needed to listen to. He wouldn't turn to the dark side. More than likely, Qui-Gon, if Anakin felt so rushed to go face, Palpatine in Episode 3, Qui-Gon might have even stood beside him and said, let's go together. Like, if you're this determined, I feel like a Qui-Gon would probably do something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the difference between Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan is, and the difference between a parent and a teacher, really, is telling somebody what to do and how to do it versus walking beside them and saying, you're going to make this choice anyways. If that's the case, let me go with you and we'll figure it out together.
Yeah, Obi-Wan seemed to really... Jedi Council was like, here's the rules. And Obi-Wan said, okay. And Qui-Gon's outside of those rules. And he's like, I don't know, man.
I don't agree.
Yeah, and Qui-Gon's trying to teach him, like, look at the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. And he just couldn't see that. And Obi-Wan, I think, later on, kind of blames himself for the failure. And rightfully so. I mean, he wasn't the right guy. Whether he deserves the blame or not, I mean, it's just kind of where fate put him. Mm-hmm. And if you look outside of canon, the way they wrote it. But
here's a question that you just made me think of. What if they just left well enough alone and they didn't train Anakin? What if they just left him on Tatooine and said he's too old? What do you think would have happened?
Like Qui-Gon?
Yeah, Qui-Gon just says he's too old, and he didn't do what he felt inclined to do. He listened to the Jedi Order.
I still think Palpatine finds a way.
You still think so?
Yeah, because he's already working his way up into the hierarchy, trying to become the Emperor.
What do you think would have become of Anakin, though? Do you think he still would have...
Well, in my opinion, because of the prophecy, if he is the chosen one, like like George Lucas has said he is, then there's no other option for him. But
he would have found a way.
But to have found a way. And because of Qui-Gon's character, he runs across him and he's like, he's got a higher midichlorian count. He's like, I believe this is the one. He had no father. He was born strictly from the Force. Like, there's too many, things that he doesn't believe in coincidences. So there's no way Qui-Gon's leaving that planet without him.
They never really talk a whole lot more about that, about him being born of the Force, do they? Like, it's kind of just mentioned in that
The closest thing they do, and it's led to some people going, oh, well, Palpatine created him, is in Episode 3 when they're in the theater together. Palpatine is talking about his master in a way. So he's talking about his master, Darth Plagueis, and he even kind of like looks slightly over to Anakin as he said that they could even manipulate midichlorians to create life. And, Anakin's sitting there like, oh, that's me.
Yeah.
And so he's thinking now, which is kind of implying, which he could have just been trying to trick him.
Yeah.
Because the Force works in mysterious ways. He could have, there's so much there to explore. It's like, well, how did Palpatine find and pick Shmi? And what made him do that? Mm-hmm. But I like to just think of it as the Force created this being, and he wanted to control it.
Right.
So for my personal headcanon is that Anakin is born of the Force, and Palpatine, again, is trying to use something else to manipulate Anakin, because he's like, I can save the ones you love from dying with this power.
I think that makes the most sense, is just that he was more so trying to use that.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about one of the fun what-if theories that's come up, I don't know, last 15 years or so. And a lot of people joke about it. Jar Jar is a Sith Lord.
Ooh.
Now, there's a couple things people point out immediately. When you've seen close-ups of his eyes, he has Sith eyes.
Yeah, he does.
He's got the same red and the orange and the black in there.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if other
that's
Gungans...
coincidence or...
Yeah. Do the other Gungans have Sith eyes?
I don't know. I've never paid enough attention to their eyes.
Nobody pays attention to the Gungans.
They're great,
To be fair, they don't.
I know everybody hates on Jar Jar Binks and the Gungans and all that.
Oh, God.
I love it.
This is one of the few times I'm going to talk about the sequel trilogy by Disney, but I would rather put up with Jar Jar Binks than ever have to do anything else with that sequel trilogy.
100%. The prequels are what I grew up with, and so maybe I'm a little biased, but I think he's fun. I don't necessarily find him annoying. Is it the most serious part of the movies? No. But do I hate him and wish he wasn't around? No. Could he be a Sith Lord? Quite possibly.
And so the next thing they point out is not only the Sith eyes, which other Gungans might have, I'll have to check, is that he is, extremely athletic. Think about those jumps and flips. Yeah, he does some
crazy-ass flips.
Yeah, who else do you see do that?
To be so clumsy.
Yeah.
What kind of clumsy people can do that?
Yeah, and who else does that kind of stuff? Well, Jedi.
Sith,
Force-sensitive Jedi, Sith, Force-sensitive beings.
And it would have made a lot of sense strategically for them to pick Jar Jar to be a Sith Lord, because whoever's going to suspect a bumbling idiot?
Exactly.
Oh,
it's Jar Jar, and just write him off. And then he gets tangled up with the two guys that came to that planet to stop Darth Maul. They didn't know, they discovered Darth Maul, not that, to stop the Trade Federation situation going on. So then he tags along with them all the way back to where Chancellor Palpatine
getting inside knowledge.
Yeah. And Chancellor Palpatine he gets him installed. He's Jar Jar Binks, this low-level bumbling Gungan, is now representing and saying he should be so he installs him as the Chancellor. He's the one that makes the motion.
That's
Remember, Padme
crazy.
doesn't. Mm-hmm. And so some people are like, well, that was Palpatine manipulating, stuff around him. Sure, could be. Or
He's a Sith
Jar
Lord.
Jar is manipulating the situation.
Yeah.
He's aware of Chancellor Palpatine, or soon-to-be Chancellor Palpatine is a Sith, and he's like, I'm going to put him in place, and it's a hierarchy that we're completely unaware of.
I don't know. I kind of dig it.
Yeah. To be fair, in my headcanon, he's not a Sith Lord. But it's a fun idea.
But it's fun. All right. What else we got?
If Qui-Gon Jinn lives, does Dooku leave or stay with the Jedi? And if he still leaves, do we get a Qui-Gon Jinn versus Dooku in Episode 2, like how we had Dooku versus Anakin and Obi-Wan?
I'm going to say he still leaves. I don't think Qui-Gon living would keep him around the Jedi.
And see, I'm on the exact opposite side.
You
I
think
say
so?
Dooku leaves because they didn't listen to Qui-Gon about Anakin, and because of his death was consequential of the Jedi Council.
Yeah. I mean, do they ever specifically say that's why he leaves, though? Or it's just, hey, he left?
I believe, and I could be wrong, I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to correct me on this, but I believe it's in a Star Wars Clone Wars novel where it's Dooku and Yoda meets, I believe Yoda meets with Dooku, or they're just reminiscing or something. It's been a while since I read it. But there's a novel where he speaks on this, and I believe the whole situation with them not listening to him about Anakin, and then them sending him back without any reinforcements to check out a possible Sith Lord. It's like, how could you be so arrogant to think that, that in the vast galaxy, universe, whatever, that a Sith could not reemerge?
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. I mean, it's not like we're just talking about planet Earth here. Like,
yeah,
it's
like
a whole freaking galaxy. It would be hard enough trying to police something like that on Earth.
Imagine trying to police Coruscant.
Yeah.
Checking to see, hey, you're a Force user. You being a Sith in here? No? Good.
Yeah, I mean, that's still a ridiculous task, but it's more believable than them having eyes all over the galaxy to be able to
think about
prevent
this.
that.
Qui-Gon Jinn gets to Tatooine, and he's like, there's still slavery out here?
Yeah, I had no idea.
Oh, they don't know about slavery, but a Sith Lord reemerging. Oh, that's preposterous.
Right.
They've been extinct for years. Well, what causes a Sith Lord? Just someone getting angry.
Yeah.
And just turning to the dark side. Anybody in that room, clearly Dooku.
Because
Dooku
it's
was
the
like, forget
hate.
this.
It's the hate that fuels them. It's not
Yeah.
some special breed of people that has gone extinct.
Yeah,
it
they
is
were
a
like-
force-sensitive person who is filled with hate instead of positive energy.
Yeah, they looked at Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and was like, the Sith have been exterminated for a millennia. They couldn't have emerged without us knowing. Well, how do you know? You sit up
Clearly
here in
they
your-
were wrong.
You sit up in your little tower over there on your little comfy chair. And,
Those chairs do look very comfy.
Yeah. And how are you supposed to know if out in the outer rim, you don't even know if slavery's still around, but you're going to tell me you're going to be able to police and know that a Sith has emerged or not?
That's
I'm
a good
calling
point.
BS on that one.
It's a good point.
But if Dooku did leave, a Qui-Gon Jinn versus Dooku match, I think would be pretty elegant.
And that's kind of where I'm going with it. I think if he still left, it'd be really cool to get a Qui-Gon Dooku match. And so that's why I want to say that he still leaves, because I think that would be a lot of fun.
Fair enough. And on my side, I think he stays if Qui-Gon lives.
That's fair. So if he did leave, and if him and Qui-Gon did fight, who wins?
You know?
The master or the apprentice?
It depends, because if Dooku is a Sith, I feel like Sith Lords are more so like, I want to finish this. Qui-Gon would probably be like, Dooku, come back.
Yeah, like murdering them versus trying to bring him back,
Yeah,
imprison
because,
him,
like,
whatever. Yeah.
He's like, you're my master, man. We've been through a lot of stuff. You know, like, come on. I'm still part of the Jedi. Come back to the Jedi. And Dooku, depending on how far into the Sith he is, considering he still uses his name Dooku, you know, like, I guess. But here's the thing. It's like, you think Sith in like a political forum, like how Palpatine would say Palpatine, not.
Right.
Well, he uses Emperor Palpatine. What's his Darth name? Sidious.
Yeah, Darth Sidious.
Yeah, Darth Sidious. I blanked for a minute. I was like, what? And Count Dooku is Darth Tyrannus. So it kind of confusing, because I'm like, how far into being a Sith is he? Because he still just goes by Count Dooku.
Right.
Even though we hear someone call him Darth Tyrannus.
Makes me think of a T-Rex.
Oh, I love it. I know. I wish it was my. I wish if I was a Sith Lord, that's what my Darth name I'd want it to be.
What if Star Wars universe, Jedi's planet of dinosaurs that has Jedi dinosaurs?
I don't see why not. You think about all those. Think about all those crazy creatures we've seen. Like think about Utapau.
Yeah.
In episode 3, those weird lizardy looking monsters and
weird ass things.
Episode 2 had crazy creatures. One of them kind of looked like a tiger, but it wasn't. You know.
Oh, that fat old cook chef dude who has all the hands and yeah.
All right, so we got Qui-Gon lives. Mm-hmm. Darth Maul lives.
Yep.
So we get to this question I have is if we get to the Clone Wars. So Obi-Wan's alive still. We didn't kill him in this theory. Qui-Gon would stay on Coruscant while the younger people like Obi-Wan and Anakin would go out in the Clone Wars and they would still do all of their Clone War adventures together. Mm-hmm. They would build that brotherly bond, which would then lead us to episode 3.
Yep.
To where Anakin is on the verge, and this is where Qui-Gon's going to save him. Because now that him and Obi-Wan have spent so much time, going to different planets, doing all this stuff, now we're kind of treading the water of the Anakin that we know from the main canon, where he's eventually going to fall to that dark side. But Qui-Gon being alive on Coruscant, and, Mace Windu tells him stay in the temple, Qui-Gon's there.
He might have listened.
He might have listened to him. Might have stayed in that temple, let the other Jedi go. Or Qui-Gon, Anakin, Mace Windu all could have gone together. They would have stopped him.
Yeah.
And they could have arrested or killed him, depending on how that turned out.
Yeah, I honestly think even if Anakin did still get to the point where he was on the threshold of turning, but Qui-Gon was alive, I think that's a pivotal moment where Qui-Gon could have been with him and not left him alone to make those choices. And I think obviously the fear is what drove him to the dark side. He was afraid of losing Padme. He was afraid of losing his mother and his children. There was a lot of loss there. And I think that if he had Qui-Gon and had that father figure and had someone in his corner, because even Padme, even though she was in his corner, sure, but he wasn't giving her all the information. She wasn't aware of the full depths of what was going on. So I think just having someone beside him in these pivotal moments to help him make wise decisions could have made all the difference.
In the main canon, Anakin only gets trained by Obi-Wan because Qui-Gon died, and Obi-Wan vowed to do it because it was his master's last wishes, because he believed in the prophecy. And Yoda was like, fine, fair enough, I agree. So with Qui-Gon living, he would have to fight probably pretty hard to get Anakin to be trained. Mm-hmm. But I think he would do it, whether that meant him getting kicked out of the Jedi Order or not. Eventually, Yoda would probably been like he did with Obi-Wan and say, okay, fine, train him.
Yep.
All right, so the next idea is whether we're looking at the main canon or the canon we've established here where Qui-Gon Jinn lives and Darth Maul lives and all this. What if the twins are just born early and Padme lives through childbirth and we get past his fear that he was so afraid of?
Yeah, because, if you think about it, the only reason she dies during childbirth is because of what he's done. She literally just lost the will to live. There's nothing medically wrong. So if the babies had come even just a day or two earlier, I think we could have had an entirely different outcome, no matter which plot line we're looking in. Because
Qui-Gon, no Qui-Gon.
Yeah, if he's there with her, he's holding her hand, the babies live, she lives. All right, well, that's what he was afraid of. He went to the dark side to try and save Padme.
Yep.
But then in reality, what killed Padme was him going to the dark side.
Yeah, and then he may have been open to listening to the Jedi who obviously continued to push him away. From the moment Qui-Gon showed up, there was he's too old, he can't be trained, this. And that's why Qui-Gon was I believe in the prophecy, the Force has willed this to happen. There's no other reason why I should have been on Tatooine except for the fact that I have met the Chosen One. He is the prophecy, and we need to do something about it before we're all eradicated. And having those twins early,
it would have changed everything. And could you imagine a world with a Jedi Anakin and a happy Padme with little Luke and Leia running around?
If Disney would just produce, I don't care if it's a 30-minute episode, make a what-if series and do that as episode 1.
Our hearts need that. That is a pain that I have felt since childhood, is seeing that wonderful love story. And that's what the prequels
could
are.
have been.
They're a love story and a politics movie, but it could have changed everything. And I think
the thing is, we know in the regular world, 4, 5, and 6 are made first. We have to get to 4, 5, and 6.
Of course.
Love the original trilogy. I don't want to change the original trilogy. It's just that 1, 2, and 3 have such a good story in there that you want to see that happy ending.
Yeah.
So there's no problem with Marvel's over here doing these multiverse movies every second now with all the multiverse things here and there. There's no reason why we can't have. It doesn't. You don't have to make a movie. Make a Star Wars What If TV
like
show.
a special.
Just a special.
Yeah.
Show us a happy Anakin that doesn't get burnt up by his so-called best friend.
Ooh, I just thought of something on that same tune. Twins come early. Him and Padme live happily ever after. And Obi-Wan becomes the new Sith apprentice.
You know, I've thought about that, but I also, this is going to sound crazy or stupid or something, but I just don't think Obi-Wan's got the chops to be a Sith Lord.
You don't think so? Doesn't
don't.
have what it takes?
I don't think he's got what it takes.
Who would be the new Sith Lord then? Who do you think? If it wasn't Anakin.
If it wasn't Anakin.
Do they just defeat Palpatine and that's the end? Or is there another evolutionary line there?
From where we're, from the timeline or canon that we've made from these what ifs that we've gone down through here, I mean, Darth Maul's still alive.
Oh, that's true.
So he could be the main guy next to Palpatine for however long. I mean, think about how long Vader was with Palpatine.
I like it.
You know, and Maul might have got tired of Palpatine at some point and just knocked him off, you know. I don't know if Maul would be as good of a, well, not to say that Palpatine was a great leader, but in a sense, people...
Is influential.
Influential. There we go.
I'm not saying he was good at what he did, but he influenced people to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
What we got next on the Star Wars train?
Yep. So, whenever Anakin goes to meet Palpatine in episode 3, you know how he pulls his lightsaber out and he's like, "You are the Sith Lord," or whatever. What if he just arrested him right there?
Yeah, instead of killing him, taking him back, had him spill his guts.
Now, do you think Palpatine goes quietly and goes, "Yeah, okay, take me before these guys," or do you think he pulls his lightsaber out and we get the duel like when he was with Mace Windu?
No, I think I'm going to go with an answer that I don't think you expect from me. I think he goes quietly, and I think that because he's arrogant. And I think that he thinks that he can influence and talk and manipulate the situation to his advantage.
Maybe even manipulate Anakin because he thinks if Anakin's pushing me, he's going to expect me to react back. So I'm not going to.
Right.
I'm going to be Palpatine, the friend he knows I am, and try and weasel my way out of this.
Yeah, and it's going to be like, if come on, guys. If I was the Sith Lord, why would I let him walk me in here?
That's true.
So that's what I think. I think he goes quietly. I think he tries to stay a snake. I don't think he's going to pull out the big guns.
So let's think about this is without our Qui-Gon lives and Darth Maul lives and the story we're talking about so far we've made. How about Anakin turns to the dark side, but he doesn't burn on Mustafar. He's still just Anakin. He looks the way he looks.
It would have made for way less cool movies. You wouldn't have the...
Obviously, yeah. We wouldn't get the cool Vader. But just that idea, though, it's like, what happens?
I don't know, because, I think, too, that's part of the pain that fuels him. Like, actual physical pain, but also being pushed to lava and abandoned by his brother. Like that emotional pain, along with the physical pain, propels him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know that... obviously, at that point, he's already turned...
Now, there's an alternate ending to the Star Wars Episode 3 video game they made that was tied along when the movie came out. And the alternate ending is Anakin beats Obi-Wan on Mustafar and kills him. And then Palpatine was already on his way to Mustafar to check on Anakin. And when he finally meets up with Anakin, I guess, is just, I don't know, high on this Force adrenaline. And he kills Palpatine.
Oh, my God.
And proclaims himself the new Emperor. And takes over.
That's great. I want that.
So the Jedi Order's been knocked out, and Obi-Wan's dead, Palpatine's dead. Now Anakin is the leader.
And in that scenario, what would have been a good plot line is for him to go back and just be like, I'm going to rebuild the Jedi. This is a terrible tragedy.
Oh, no, he's evil, though.
But he's evil.
Yeah.
And he builds the Jedi into what he wants. and therefore not necessarily going against the Republic, but molding the Republic to his needs.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting.
He'd even said, my new empire, so he's thinking that. And I think the only thing that really stopped him from overthrowing Palpatine a lot earlier was because he loses Padme, he lost Obi-Wan, and now he's in so much physical pain that all he has left, any remnants of his old life at all, was a person that said it was his friend, Palpatine. Otherwise, Vader would have killed him off.
Yeah.
Would have, I think.
Anakin has such a tragic story. Every way you look at it, it's like, don't get me wrong, Vader is clearly not a good guy. He did a lot of bad things, but
in his mind, Vader and Anakin are two different people.
Yeah, he's separated. Like, Anakin, he was a Jedi. He had beliefs, and it was just pain and fear. And
he wanted to do what was right. He had love in his heart.
It's like if we had been through the things he had been through, not that we live in a world with Jedis and Siths, but there's no telling what kind of mental state we would be in. You know what I mean?
And the Jedi Order, like I said a second ago, they pushed him away, and guess what? They pushed him right into the arms of an open Sith Lord who comforted him and reassured him on all the things that he was worried about the whole time. Because these things, if he talked about the Jedi Order, they shun him.
Yeah, because he's talking about horrible things, illegal things. We don't do that. We don't mess with that.
Yeah, and he wants to be this Jedi. He wants to be able to do the right thing, but he has, these different ideas and feelings, and that's why I think Qui-Gon would have been the perfect mentor, father figure for him.
He needed a dad.
And what's funny, when I was researching and doing some of these things, someone also mentioned, was like, Padme is loaded. She was a queen. Why didn't she go back and pay for Shmi? Like,
That's a really good point.
Like, she didn't have to use Republic credits. Like, go to a conversion bank or whatever you got to do out there.
Do they have those?
I'm guessing so. How else would you do it? I don't know.
Or she probably owns something very valuable that she could be like, here, I'll give you this golden statue for the mother.
Exactly, because they're like, oh, that shiny ship. Well, she could have been like, yeah, take my ship. Here, I've got plenty of them. I can go get more when I want. Padme could have bought me.
I guess the only thing with that is let's say she doesn't do it originally, because at that point it's just some little kid. It's not, the man she loves.
Well, episode 2,
Right. But at that point, is the mother already sold and has the husband? Because she remarries. Or marries. I don't think she remarries.
Oh, yeah.
Because remember, he sold her to a farmer.
Of episode 2, that's when he finally sees Padme for the first time in years. And so whenever he does go to Tatooine, she has been sold.
Yeah, because that's where Luke goes. Right. Luke goes to live with that family that Shmi made.
I guess the point I was trying to make, and I guess the whoever made that question and thought of that was, at that point in time, they're saving this little boy.
Why not just bring his mom, too?
Why wouldn't she just go, hey, I'm loaded? But at the time, she hadn't revealed her identity.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, Qui-Gon does try to get the mother.
He tries to get the mother, but we're talking about Padme's loaded.
Nah, that's true.
Because at the time, Qui-Gon was like, Republic credits will do fine. And
he's like, no, they will not.
But it was just a thought. So let's see. Another one I had an idea of was like, go through the normal canon. Let's get to the Kenobi show. You remember the Kenobi show where Obi-Wan's running away from him and he does something like knocks him down and he sets these coals out and throws the fire and he starts dragging Obi-Wan through that and he's like, now it's your turn to suffer. Personally, I loved that. That was my favorite part, and I wanted to see Obi-Wan burn right there, because it was like, you call yourself his best friend, you said you loved him, and you literally chopped him to pieces and left him to burn alive in the fire. I mean,
I have very mixed feelings on Obi-Wan, because, I feel like in the original series, he's definitely a force of good.
Yeah.
And I feel like in the prequel series, he's not necessarily a bad character, but he's also not a good character. He makes some poor choices.
He makes a lot of bad choices.
And I think a lot of that's character development to lead us into the Obi-Wan that we have in the originals. But, he makes some choices that were,
Yeah, and it really, the straw that broke the camel's back for me is whenever you're dueling your brother, you could have de-escalated, and I'm sure, maybe, do a force push, knock him off somewhere, and try and make your escape, get away from him. Eventually, somehow, some way, you can de-escalate this fight, get away from Anakin and stop this. But to literally just go, well, I'm going to chop his legs and arm off because he tried to jump over me like I did to Darth Maul, and Darth Maul didn't chop me in half. They literally do the same thing.
And I mean, and honestly, if his goal is to kill him, well, he failed. I mean, at least push him into the lava, let him die, like not leave him there to suffer and slowly burn.
Yeah, like mercy kill him. Like he's sitting there looking at him burning alive.
Yeah.
If you at that point have decided, I'm chopping him off, you see him burning, and it's like, well, he's going to die. Man, finish the job.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just like when we watch a horror movie, and we're like, you shot him once, that's not enough. You need to go back, get him in the head.
Yeah, they shoot him once, they kind of fall over, and they're like, whew, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's great.
And they pop up behind him. It's same thing. It's like, okay, if you have honestly decided at this point that Anakin is an evil force, we're done with him, he's no longer my brother, he's the Sith, he's the bad guy, kill him.
Yeah.
Don't just or okay, chop off his legs, burn him, take him into custody. Like, I don't know, like just leaving him there with no legs to ideally burn to death seems like an awful thing to do.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like I'm killing a bad guy for the greater good. It doesn't seem like I got in a fight with my brother and I hope he's okay. Yeah. It's like this awkward in between of I don't want to kill you because you're my brother, but I guess leaving you to burn to death is okay. Like,
yeah. It's like, I don't understand how you can say, you're my brother, I love you, and you have these kind of feelings, and you guys have been through so much stuff, and then, he jumps over you, will force push something, but you literally chop his legs and his other arm off. Mm-hmm. And he falls into lava, and he's burning alive, and you're just sitting there looking at him like, dude, something's wrong there. Also,
on a realistic level, I feel like if you get pushed into lava in any degree, like, I feel like the pain would give you a heart attack or something. Like, I'm not a doctor, but
that's where the Force comes into it.
Well, yeah.
Because the Force, he is very strong with the Force, and having all of that, like, intensity and anger, he's really tapped into the dark side. Like, he's really now he's gone. That's what's keeping him alive. And Obi-Wan should have, if he was going to kill him. Mm-hmm. But I also think he's not right for what he did.
I agree.
But in that episode, when Vader is burning Obi-Wan, he only gets just a taste of what Vader had. I mean, barely even a free sample.
Like he's at the Costco.
Yeah. And if I had directed that episode, I would have changed the canon up. I would have let him not burn his face or hands, because
you can't, because in
4, 5,
sequels,
and 6, yeah, I would have burnt his legs, his body. I would have done so much to keep the regular canon in, but also have Obi-Wan feel that pain.
Get that vengeance, man. Yeah.
Well,
you're always one for vengeance and revenge. You love it.
Well, it is my bread and butter.
Butter, honey.
Okay. So, what if the Republic won the Clone Wars prior to the end of Episode 3?
That's food for thought. I feel like the Republic would have eventually fallen anyways. And not necessarily, obviously, to the Sith. So if, they defeat the Sith, they win, yay. I feel like the Sith were able to win and were able to succeed because the system was flawed. I feel like we've talked about before, they were very arrogant. They thought they had control over everything, and they didn't. And I feel like one way or the other, that would have come crashing down. Now, would that give Emperor Palpatine, or someone else, another bad guy, ability to take over? Possibly, but I more so think it would be more a new political structure would have been put in place, and I think it would have been a more positive world in the long run. You don't have Siths trying to blow up your planet. You can't go wrong with that.
That is a positive. All right. Let's talk about Episode 4. Mm-hmm. But we don't meet Luke as the Force-sensitive catalyst of the film. Leia's the Force-sensitive being for A New Hope, and we follow her. How does that change everything?
So I've actually thought about that. And I think things would have been very different if it was Leia. Obviously, we know she's Force sensitive. But if she was the one who was trained as the Jedi, I think, knowing who her parents are, she would have had better training earlier on. If it would have been something like where she's strong in the Force and they see it, I mean, we saw in the series,
The Kenobi show.
yeah, in the Kenobi show, we saw that her dad called on Kenobi for help. And I feel like he would have called on Kenobi and said, hey, look, Leia,
That's a
she
great
is,
point.
she has the Force just like her father. We need you to come help. And I
great
feel like she would have been trained from an earlier stage. I feel like Obi-Wan would be a better teacher at that point because he's made some mistakes. Hopefully we've learned from him. Obviously he's a better teacher in the original series.
This, okay. Leia is with Bail Organa and her new mother, and Luke is on Tatooine being watched by Obi-Wan.
Alderaan. What's wrong with us?
So
It's never been
Leia
planted.
is on Alderaan. Luke is on Tatooine.
Right?
So Obi-Wan would have to go to Alderaan and train her there, and that would leave Luke unattended.
I don't agree. I don't think Ben would leave Luke without another plan in place.
Okay.
I feel like he would have set somebody else up there. Like,
Who does he know?
I mean, well, Yoda's still alive. Maybe, he brings Yoda. Or maybe he goes to them and brings Luke with him. Like, talks of... I don't know. All I know is I don't feel like he would just leave him unsupervised.
Well, I mean, if he brings him with him, now we have Luke and Leia being trained at the same time.
I think it would more so be like he would find a proxy to sit in and watch him. Or maybe he would do something where he goes back and forth. I don't know.
You know what I think it would just happen? I think he would just leave him. He did.
so?
He did in the Obi-Wan show. He just left him.
But he
He's like-
also left him knowing he wasn't going to be gone long. Like, that's what I'm kind of saying. Like, maybe he does it where it's like, okay, I'll come down every other week. Or, I mean, it's a planet, so maybe every other month. I don't know. Like, I feel like a custody thing. They'd work something out, right? I don't feel like Luke would be
Obi-Wan's
abandoned.
not good with kids.
But either way, no matter how it works out with Luke, I think that Leia would have been trained younger. She would already be in a place of political power.
So does Obi-Wan give Leia Anakin saber first, and she goes through kind of the same stuff from Episode 4,
Yes.
or do we see a little bit different?
I think, yes, she gets the saber. I think we see the basic same plot, but I just feel like the rebel cause doesn't feel as hopeless. Like, I feel like at that point, they've had a Jedi in their corner now. Instead of just having, Leia's like a general. She's, part of the war, but she's leading now, clearly, because she's the Jedi. But also, maybe that would have made it more public and things would have come crashing down sooner. I don't know. What are your thoughts? What do you think that would look like?
I don't really have good thoughts on it.
You don't?
No, I don't think it'd be as good.
I'm not saying it would be as good of a story, but I'm saying that maybe it would be a shorter story. They would have just nipped it all in the bud.
I don't know if I agree with that.
You don't think so?
No, I don't think so, because it gets a little muddled and stuff, because she's representing the Republic, right? Or well, not Republic, the Galactic Senate. She's an ambassador for the Senate. Mm-hmm. And that's why they're like, Vader's like, you're a rebel. But, I don't know. I just think it definitely looks a lot different. But I think things get a little muddled in there with her being an ambassador and all this stuff. I don't know.
That's fair.
I don't know. I'll have to think about that more. Maybe we'll talk about it on another Star Wars discussion when I have some more time to think about that.
Well, and one thing before we move on, I just want to kind of point out, one of the reasons that makes Luke such a good hero is he's not political. He's just doing what he thinks is right. Whereas if Leia were trained, she's clearly political. She is literally part of a political family. Yeah. So it would have been more so used as a tool versus, try and make things right, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
So this one I wrote down, but thinking about the end of Rogue One, it really doesn't matter because they all die at the end of Rogue One.
Yeah, what the heck? We're having fun anyways.
So Lynn Erso, Jen Erso's mom, is a Jedi.
Yep.
Unconfirmed in the movie. Would that mean Jen Erso's Force sensitive?
I think so. I would think so.
Because she does have, the mom was talking about the Kyber crystals, and she kind of looked like she was wearing Jedi robes anyways in that movie.
Yeah.
Without actually using the Force, talking about the Force, or having a lightsaber around, which she could have been trying to hide all that because of what happened where they're hunting Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that had she been a Jedi or had she been Force sensitive, do you think we would have had a different outcome? of Rogue One?
Not really. Especially with them dying at the end. But it was just a thought I had. I was like, because at the time I was thinking of it, I wasn't getting to the end of the movie yet. I was kind of thinking about her mom being a Jedi officially, and then I was thinking, well, what if she is also Force sensitive? But along her storyline, as she's going through there, she meets Chirrut, who is like, I'm one with Force is with me, who I think should have been Force sensitive at the very end, like used the Force to push that button or whatever it was. Would have been a perfect little, ending for him. But yeah, I just got thinking about that. I was like, it'd be cool if she was Force sensitive and we could see more of her story. Oh yeah, she blows up.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing is like they made a great character. Like Disney did one thing right. You made Jyn Erso. She's a great, strong character, and I think your thought comes from wanting to see more, wanting there to be more to her story, but we can't because she died.
Yeah, I liked everybody. Just about everybody in Rogue One. And again, I don't like talking about the Disney sequels, but the Disney sequels, I literally couldn't care less.
Oh, I know. They're terrible. They're trash.
All right. So, to finish this off, one of the last things, what if Luke turns to the dark side in Episode 6? Vader lives as well. And they kill Palpatine. Or Vader kills Palpatine and Luke takes his side.
That's a really, really good thought. Honestly, I think the way the originals are now, I feel like Episode 6 is just a nice bow on the package. It's got a good, solid ending. And then Disney went in and tried to undo the bow and do their own thing.
Yeah,
and I
that's
think
why we
with
don't
what
acknowledge them here.
But I think what you're talking about, that's like if Luke or if George Lucas didn't put a bow on it.
You want to know something?
That would be to me the perfect segue into a new trilogy. If we had that and then seeing Darth Vader and Luke navigate what that looks like, because you have one that's clearly dark side and one that's clearly light side. But if he turns, that would just be so interesting watching Vader show him the dark side.
You want to know something?
Yes.
I believe it was an interview, could have been commentary, but an original idea for Episode 6 was for Luke to turn to the dark side, take his father's suit, and put it on.
Ooh.
Yeah, so that at the end of 6, we weren't going to have this redemption arc, or not a redemption. Well, it would be redemption for Vader because he came back to the light, but instead of that happening, it was Vader.
Luke go to the dark.
Luke goes to the dark side and takes his suit.
I almost think I like that better a little bit.
Do you? I like the father-son together.
Well, don't get me wrong, but I like where it ends now, but that's very, I feel like I would like that series. Like, if they made a trilogy, instead of ending it there, if they continued it on to another trilogy, I feel like that plot line could be amazing.
Yeah. If he hadn't titled them 4, 5, 6, and then he was wanting to make a 7, 8, 9 and do that trilogy with a dark Luke, that could have been cool. But I do like that it ends with Luke's good and Anakin came back to the light.
Yeah.
I think that's where it all's supposed to
Well,
go.
if you think about it, you could still have, if you continued on,
You could have them both come back.
you could have them both come back.
Yeah.
Leia, because you still got Leia.
Yeah, she could be like, Luke, what are you doing,
Ooh, and then that's when Leia could discover that she's a Jedi too, and it could be father and son versus daughter.
I think in Episode 6, she starts to understand she's Force sensitive because whenever she says, she's like, I've known. I've always known. Like, she can tell, I haven't really taken time to be, more attuned to it, but I'm Force sensitive, like you and our father.
Yeah, interesting.
But I think for that scenario, I would like to see Vader. Well, I'm happy with the ending where they all turn and Luke good, but in this scenario, I'd like to see Vader and Luke by his side. Like, they kill Palpatine, and Vader's the emperor of the Galactic Empire, and now Luke is by his side, and he's showing him this, and then now you have to you've gone through this trilogy where Luke, Han, and Leia are this great gang.
This little
friends,
trio.
and now these two got to be like, what the heck happened up there? Luke, dude, come on. We leave you alone 5 minutes with your dad.
Oh my God, that just Han's reaction to that whole situation would be great.
Oh yeah, It's kind of like in Toy Story 2, whenever the other Buzz is hanging out with Zurg.
Buzz, 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 buzz.
Yeah, I'm going to stay here and play catch with my dear old dad. It's like, Luke, no, stop it.
He's the bad guy.
But you know what? Let's wrap things up. I think we've had a good discussion. I'd like to do more Star Wars topics. Maybe even revisit a little bit more and expand on more on these. What are your final thoughts? What was your favorite?
I think my favorite is just imagining if the twins were born early. I think that's my favorite theory out of all of them. It gives me what my heart wants. Does it make for a great sequel movie? Probably not. But it would make me happy.
So ending this on my final thoughts, I'd like to have an idea. Qui-Gon lives. He's the father that Anakin needed. The twins are born early. He's over his fears and dreams. Palpatine gets arrested. The Jedi Order get a reality check from Qui-Gon and Anakin, seeing how they saved everything. And the Jedi Order starts to learn and adapt differently into a better world. And Anakin gets to happily raise his twins on Naboo with Padme back at their home. They live happily ever after.
I love it. I love it. Now, with that happy thought in my heart, I hear Diabetes Debbie is bringing out the cake, so I'm going to go get me some of that.
Let's get over there before she eats it.
Oh, yeah. I really like the icing.
Well, as always, we'll see you fatties next time.
See ya.
Looking round for a butt buffet.
I love food. I love eating food. Whether it's hot or it's cold, I'm in the mood.
Gotta get some right up in his boot. Right in the undercarriage, you know that looks cute.
I got stuff in my ass, that's true. It's not grass, it's fruit. I got a butt buffet.
He's got a butt buffet, like every day. He's got 2 apples and a motherfucking grape. Can I get maybe 1 orange? All I wanna know. What rhymes with orange?
Every single day I got a butt buffet.